A proud moment for Mariam Alimi. A media outlet in her new hometown of Baltimore, Maryland, has published her images. In Afghanistan, Alimi was one of the country's first female photojournalists. She had a career as a freelancer and taught photography at the nonprofit Imagine Asia. But when the Taliban retook control of the country in August 2021, she fled, making her way eventually to the U.S. Once in America, she had to start a new life and re-establish herself as a photojournalist.
I am new here. I have to network and become familiar with the resources and people working here.
The fundamentals of journalism are the same everywhere, she says, but she still needs to learn some new skills.
I can communicate with people in English, but it's not enough if I want to pursue a career in my field. I should be able to write well. For example, I should be able to write the stories that I work on in the U.S.
Experience of working with UN Women and UNAMA in Afghanistan.
Fortunately for Alimi, help was at hand. She was part of a 6-month program for exiled female journalists set up by the International Women's Media Foundation, or IWMF. The program offered a week-long retreat, regular training sessions, and access to mentors, workshops, and more. The IWMF's Deputy Executive Director, Nadine Hoffman, said the precarious situation of Afghanistan's female journalists inspired the foundation to act.
Many of them were really well established in their journalism careers in Afghanistan and had worked very hard to get to where they were. So we wanted to have a cohort that could give them, some peer fellowship, that could also be a place to talk about some of the trauma that they had experienced and were experiencing, and to start to process that.
The fellowship also offered practical advice to help the journalists adjust to life and work in a new country.
In addition to trying to just be able to settle here and to think about how their careers could continue in the news, they also have to think about how they're going to stay in the United States, how they're going to afford to, even live here.
Since the fall of Kabul 2 years ago, the need for such programs is clear. Hundreds of journalists have left the country and thousands have lost their jobs in the media. Around 80% of Afghan female journalists now no longer work, says the press freedom nonprofit Reporters Without Borders. For Alimi, the Taliban takeover has rolled back all the progress made in Afghan journalism in the 2 decades under a more democratic government. And she says she misses her job teaching girls about photography.
I would listen to their stories and see how they were working. That was very pleasant for me, because whatever we worked on, it would be their first time experiencing it.
But now she says the future of journalism, especially for Afghan women, is dark, with little room for freedom of expression. For Roshan Noorzai, Bezhan Hamdard, VOA News.